So I'm here for the summer right now for until like the end of July, just in Northern California.
Is that where your family is from? That part of the
Yeah.
which city or town?
So they actually just moved here. Our hometown is Turlock, California, which is more in like the Mid Valley area. But they just moved into the town's called Watsonville, but it's in like the Aptos area, which is close to Santa Cruz and Capitola as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
Mhm.
we now have Evalyn on board, the real Evalyn. There was someone else called Evalyn that logged in, but the other Evalyn is the other Evalyn was quite a bit older and sort of not as good looking. So no offense. Anyway, we now have two Evelyns here, which is interesting. Anyhow, I will start the slide as I quickly, before these track talk things, I quickly just really rush, making a making a slide, for to get, to prepare for these track talk things because, the slides, I sort of put them together really quickly and this thing is what do you call it? It's this Zoom thing's very awkward to navigate because there's sort of a lot of windows going on at the same time. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is the presentation. So today's edition of Speed Talk Sunday with Pinoyathletics. We have two athletes here, the top two athletes in the Women's Javelin today. We have Cerah Moren, the Philippine junior record holder in the Javelin, and Evalyn, the 2017 SEA Games bronze medalist in the Javelin. I mainly just prepared for Cerah, but we can ask Evalyn some questions as well. Thanks for tuning in. So there's the presentation. So our special guest today is Cerah Moren from the US, and we're streaming here from Australia and California in the US and from the Philippines. So we're in 3 different time zones today. I'll just begin off by just going through some highlights. So I basically quickly, and I prepared this presentation in about 15, 20 minutes. So I just basically rushed through all my data and just sort of compiled everything. So there's Cerah Moren, was born 22nd July 1999, acquired a Filipino passport in, I think it was 2012, according to my records. So her progression in the javelin, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. So just slowly moving up the Philippine ranking list until 2017. She was able to capture the Philippine junior record in the javelin. So up till that point, Cerah had not represented the Philippines yet, up to the point where she captured the Philippine junior record in 2017. However, if we flick to the next slide, so I'm not sure if some of this data is correct, but 2018 was a gap year. So I'm assuming that you had some kind of injury. Was it in 18 or 20? 2018?
So yeah, it was 2018. It was my first freshman year in college, but I actually tore my UCL, my ligament in my throwing elbow. So I had to get surgery on that to repair, and that took about a year.
And so was it, how many different surgeries did you have to get in order to get the torn UCL fixed?
So it was just one surgery. They took like a ligament in a different part of my like they took a ligament from my left arm to repair the torn one in my right arm, in my elbow. And then it was like about 6 months of rehab and physical training all over again. And then 6 months of actually javelin training to build back that strength. So it was about a year of rehab.
So the injury itself, how did it happen? Did it happen in practice, or did it happen in a comp, or did it happen
Um,
in, like, where did the injury actually occur, or was it sort of just gradual?
my trainers at my college don't actually know how exactly it happened, and neither do I. We kind of think it was more of a gradual thing because my high school training and college training, first year in college, were very different. Since high school, I did multiple events instead of just javelin, but college, it was just javelin. So now it was purely javelin training. So I was able to fully lift, train everything. I had full range of motion, but it hurt really bad when I threw. So it took like about a month and a half after it started hurting for me to actually get an
Yeah.
MRI looked at it to find out that it was torn.
So when it was injured, was it just the javelin range of motion that actually um, was painful? But what about just lifting in the gym, like in different planes of motion? Was that still painful, or was that sort of bearable? Was that okay?
Yeah, so it was a unique situation because lifting and any drills that we did, it was perfectly fine. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't any pain with that at all. But when it came to throwing, it was really painful. So I had to
yeah,
adjust my practice to only throwing tennis balls during that time until I found out that it actually was torn.
yeah. So, like, for example, like as an elbow injury, like for example, if you do the bench press, would that have applied a lot of force on it, or
That was actually fine. Bench press, cleans,
yeah,
snatch was a little difficult just with like the overhead stuff, but I just did
yeah,
like
because you've got to
pairs
sort of
after
twist, you sort
that.
of twist the snatch. It's always a difficult one, right?
Yeah.
Um, so the pushing motion wasn't so bad. It was more the sort of the extension or the extension, like sort of I guess as you see in this photo of you throwing the javelin when you're a bit younger, like is
Yeah.
it this sort of motion that aggravated it? You know, your elbow, your arms extended rather than compressed like a bench. It's sort of like that extension of the elbow, which is the extension and then the follow through, I guess. I mean, I'm not, like out of all the events I coach, I really, honestly, I know really next to nothing about throwing. It's like the event, the other day I had to teach some kids how to throw the discus. And
Mm.
it's like, I was like, I went to the other coach, is it okay if I just, if we just do some sprint starts or something? Because I
Yeah.
really got no idea about how to, coach, like how to coach the discus or the javelin or the shot put or anything. That's the only event I don't know how to coach apart from that and the triple jump and the walks and the pole vault. I don't know how to coach everything else. I'm sound with. So okay, so 2018, recovering from an injury, and then in 2019, you
Mm.
actually came out and threw 48.11, which
Mm.
was second behind that lady who's just joined us in the room, Evalyn,
Mm.
like in the 2019. So Evalyn, honestly, Evalyn 2015, fourth in the SEA Games. They kind of wanted to um, drop her at that point afterwards, but I would have none. I'd have none of that. So like basically, she came back in 2017, got a medal because she was still very young in 2015. So she's
Mm.
only 21 at that time, and throwing events, throwers. I mean, Evelyn's still I think now 26, 27. So like in my view, like some of the throwers and the javelin, peak in your 30s. It's an event where you get better because you get stronger, and it's not like sprints, which requires a lot of. Yep, sorry about that. Yeah. So that's just my mum. So like anyway, uh, in the sprints, it requires a lot of flexibility and that wears out after time. But I guess in throwing event, as you get older, you get stronger in the gym. So, your throws are going to get better. And, throwers at 30, 35, it's still, hitting their prime at that point. So, at 21, Evalyn still had a lot, and she continued to improve up into the 50s. And I think her PR is 50.50 now. I think she's over 50 meters now in the jab. Yeah, so anyway, you ranked second in the Philippine rankings, and actually the 48.11 was the SEA Games qualification for 2019. So, my next question is probably going to be along the lines of, was there a reason why you didn't want to really participate in 2019, which was, I think it was held in, off the top of my head, about December or November? At that point of the year, your season was sort of done, or what was the...
So how my training works with college, because our season is in like the spring, so it's March through June is when we compete for college. And my coach at our college is specifically training us to peak and compete then during that time. So in December or this November to December, at that time, we barely started throwing for the year, and it was really just drills and everything. So if I did go to compete, I wouldn't have been at like top that 48.11, because that 48.11 was like during the peak training time.
Is that a similar reason why, for example, when you were sent to the World University Games in Napoli in Italy in 2019, that was sort of an out-of-season period at that point? Because I noted that, you're sort of not throwing around the 48 range at that time of the year. I'm just saying it's an out-of-season period. So in 2020, I didn't really have any results. So I'm guessing, was it mainly COVID in 2020?
Yeah, so 2020, because of COVID, outdoor track for colleges didn't happen. So that season got postponed and everyone got like an extra year because of that.
So in 2021, you've come out and you have had a slight improvement on your 2019 PB of 48.24. And due to this being a COVID year, that's sort of like the top of the Philippine and SEA rankings at the moment. Like, in saying that though, I mean, the Thai athletes are having their championships on June the 29th, so nobody from Thailand or Vietnam has really competed yet. There obviously, because of COVID in Southeast Asia, there's a lot less competitions available compared to what is now available in the United States. But I'm guessing in the US, there's still a lot less meets than there'd usually be. But compared to a lot of other countries in the world, the US is still fortunate to have like leagues, the collegiate NCAA still up and running, even with various restrictions in place. So my next question is, fast forwarding to 2021, with the SEA Games in 2021, is that something that you would perhaps be looking at for this year?
It's a possibility. It just depends on if I'm able to get in meets like during the summer right now to try and hit that qualifying mark. Because if I don't have any more meets, then I'm not able to do that. So I can't.
Yeah. So, because I was actually chatting with another Phil American athlete. I think with a few actually. The first one was Zion Nelson. She obviously she had a bit of a hamstring problem earlier in the year, so she got relegated. She's at USC, and like USC's got a lot of quick women there, like Angelus and Tranisha Terry, and all these girls running high tens and low 22s, and Zion is a low 23 and a 11 and a half kind of girl. So she basically didn't start off very well in the season and tweaked her hamstring. So then she got relegated to just relay duties, just in the 4x1, the 4x2, 4x4 as backup. So she didn't have any individual racing for the whole year. And she advised, her family advised me that, she's just going to be competing in Florida in June just to try to, hit that, mark, because obviously she's got not Richardson's, just internally to compete against, who've all already hit the standard for the 100. So she's got, like a lot of competition for that 100 spot. So she'll probably be going for the 200 because only one's hit the 200 mark. So then I had another guy I talked to from UC San Diego, Nolan Crespo, and he's run 1072, and he's basically talking about finding meets in California, Los Angeles, because he's teaming up with Coach John from Speed, and I think he's based in California, like up closer to Los Angeles, and they're looking for meets at the moment. So I know, yeah, like I mean, with sprints, I think those events are all readily available. But in regards to javelin, have you seen how many meets are actually available in the like in the summer?
Um, so I haven't completely started looking into it yet since my college season just ended. So I'm trying to take care of like minor injuries right now. And then once I go over that and kind of get back in shape, um, I believe there's a few all comers meets nearby. And I think it just depends on who's hosting it on if they're going to run the javelin or not.
Yeah. So as of now, the only female athlete that's hit over the SEA standard is Shiloh Nelson. Um, I think Shiloh Nelson. She got the shot put bronze standard the other day, but I'm not sure how lenient the PSC of Patafa is going to be towards athletes who are kind of close to the standard. So I'm not sure what the situation is there. I guess it depends on the number of slots that they're allocated, but from what I've heard, they've the entry by number, which is where you declare the maximum number of athletes that you're going to send to the SEA Games.
Mhm.
Um, they had total submission of 63 like slots, and I think it was 38 men and 25 women. As of now, about 12 women have hit over the bronze mark, or 10 to 12 women have hit over that bronze mark, not including the relay members. So I'm not sure what the final lineup is at this point. But what I'm saying is that the 5180, if we look at 5180, which is from the last Southeast Asian Games, because some of these women from Thailand and Vietnam are throwing in the 54, 55, 56, even 53 to 56 range. There's about three or four of them. So, like obviously, in order to hit a standard or to get close to the standard, it's going to require almost, because the cutoff for the qualification is, I think, sometime in September as well. So in order to hit a qualification, it's around a meter a month, based off the based off the comparison to personal best.
Mhm.
But do you feel that? Okay, I'll ask this. Do you feel that within the next 3 or 4 months, you have a good chance um, of breaking your personal best on multiple occasions?
I'm not so sure about multiple occasions. I'm hoping for one though, because I do feel
Yeah.
after a full year of training since my injury, I do feel stronger and feel like I can throw farther than that. It's just the circumstances of it. But yeah.
I'm guessing it's more about consistency in terms of being able to get those upper range um, throws and
Yeah. That's why this year was really good for me training and competition wise because my technique and my distances, like my marks throughout every competition was pretty consistent, which is something I haven't been before this year. So like PRing, like throwing a personal best and being consistent at majority of my meets was actually a really good progression for me.
Yep. I mean, did you feel that when you threw 48.24 that was peaking, or do you feel that that was like a just like a good throw, and there's lots of other good throws in there in terms of the that season's personal best throw? That when was that? Was that in March or April or May?
Um, it was actually it was in May. It was a couple weeks ago. It was at our conference championships at USC this year. And it was on, so I was in the first flight in the throws, and it was on my third throw, and I ended up being the top person in that flight. So I automatically qualified for the finals
Yeah.
from that throw. And I think if I maybe stayed warm a little longer, probably warmed up sooner, because I had to sit and wait for second flight to finish and then re-warm back up, because my progression in the finals was a good series too, but it just wasn't far enough. But I feel like if I was warmed up a little more, because it was pretty cold that night, that I could have had more in me as well.
So that was an evening event.
Hmm.
Okay. Like in all honesty, like how far away in terms of training do you reckon you would be towards, say, throwing over 50?
I, depending on if I'm not able to hit it this summer, depending on the meets that I go to, I feel like it's a strong possibility for next season for me.
Yeah. Um, okay. So next question regarding your athlete at Arizona State, is that correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
And as mentioned, I guess you qualified for the West NCAA finals in 2021. Um, Obviously, the PR came before that, but was there nerves like that? That's your first time to compete at the NCAA final, the West NCAA finals?
No, it was my second year there. Um,
Yeah,
my first year there was the 2019 season, but it was weird circumstances at that meet because we threw a pretty strong headwind. So a lot of people didn't do their best because they all throw really high with the jab, which would work,
yeah,
but it doesn't work with the headwind because it kills it, like it dies it down.
yeah.
Because my technique and I was really good that meet and I felt really good. It's just I wasn't able to hit the right spot with the wind.
So in the javelin, the headwind is disadvantage as is in the sprints, but in some of the throws like the discus or the hammer, is the headwind still a disadvantage, or is it like
Um, I don't think it's a disadvantage for the hammer. I'm not really specific in that event, so I can't give the actual answer for it. But
maybe we should ask Shiloh that?
yeah, but hammer, I don't think it's as much of a disadvantage just because the hammer's a heavy implement and it's moving super quickly. And I think discus is kind of the same thing as well as javelin. It's just you have to be able to hit it right. And it could either help it go farther or die it down to where it doesn't go as far as you would normally throw.
Let's move to the next screen. Okay, so this is like the ranking for the Philippines. I basically put all these stats together. So basically, this is the ranking list for the Philippines. Sorry, the all-time list for the Philippines in women's javelin. So you're sitting at number 5. So I actually Evalyn's PR is actually a bit higher than what I quoted before. So it's like 50.81. Um, so this is the ranking. So obviously also on the ranking lists, Geralyn, Rosie, then Evalyn, and then Lavandia. Then from the ranking lists, uh, Rosie and Lavandia were both SEA Games champions. I think Rosie got it once or twice. Lavandia won it 3 times, and Geralyn was only second at silver in the SEA Games, but she's obviously held on to that. She had a very good throw in the national championships about 20 years back, and that record's stood for a long period of time. Do you see yourself in terms of progression? I mean, what year are you now in college?
I'm actually in my second year competing, so I still have 2 more years.
Yep. Do you see yourself throwing past the collegiate point, or at that point would you be looking at, just getting a full-time job?
I want to continue training and I want to still throw for as long as I can. It just trying to figure out coaching wise and stuff as well because I would like to try and stick with my coach at Arizona State right now. So it all just depends on how that
Yeah.
works out. But I do want to plan to throw post collegiate.
Yeah. So you're like, I'm guessing by my count, you're like almost 22 at this point.
Yeah, 20.
So by the time you graduate, you'll be what, like 25?
Um,
24.
so college wise for me, it's actually a little different because I had my medical red shirt my freshman year from the injury and
Yeah.
then red shirt again because of COVID since the season got canceled. So I
Yeah.
actually graduate next semester, but I'm going to do a master's and still finish off those 2 years of collegiate season that I have.
Oh, okay. So in other words, you've been at college for 3 or 4 years now, or
I've been there for 4 years
yeah,
now, and then I'm going to be
but you've
here
only
for,
had two playing years because of the injury. You've only had two
yeah,
playing years as a athlete in the NCAA. What's
yeah.
for the just as a matter of interest, because I'm not really that familiar with the NCAA system. Like, how many years of playing is each athlete allowed in total?
So for every sport, it's different, but for track, we get 4 years.
Yeah,
And I believe most athletes are allowed one redshirt year, but I use my redshirt year as a medical redshirt where it's like you're just training and healing, but you're not competing for the team. So that
yeah.
was my freshman year because of my injury. And then I got an extra year back as well because COVID and that canceled out seasons for everyone. So everyone got that year back.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so like so 4 years became two playing years in that
Yeah.
aspect. Okay. All right. So I'll just flip to the next screen. So it's the junior records of all time. So there was someone who was like 2 centimeters behind, but I think now they've progressed into the senior ranks. So before Evalyn and Rosie held the junior record prior. So there's this list of stats. And then, like in further detail, all the age grade records, which is sort of unofficial,
Mm-hmm.
um, through the shot, discus, hammer, javelin, before the specialization into the event occurred. Do you
Yeah.
still do other like? Do you still compete in the other events as well, or are you just primarily just doing the javelin now? Because I noticed that Shiloh Nelson still does. She does the shot, the hammer, and the discus.
Mm-hmm. Um, so in high school, I did all the events, but I loved the javelin a lot more than the other ones, and I felt like I could get a lot farther in that and throw farther as well. So that's when I came to college, I wanted to specify in that event and only that event.
Okay, so I've just got a few more questions. I'm not sure if Evalyn would like to ask some stuff as well, or I might ask Evalyn some questions as well. I'll just bring up my query questions. I'm not going to display them on the screen. So I'm just making sure that we've already covered some of the questions I was going to actually ask in the discussion anyway. So I've just skipped through them. So I already asked regarding the injury. I already asked about the course of the year in. Um, competing at the World University Games. I might just elaborate a little bit further on that. So the World University Games, I understand that, was that your first international meet?
Yeah, it was. It was through the Philippines. I've gone to a couple other meets internationally, but it was kind of just on our own meets.
So
But yeah.
when you went to the other meets, you weren't actually representing a country when you joined the prior meets, right? It was
Yeah.
just it was just
It,
basically just kind of like you just went and joined them unattached.
yeah.
Yep. So yeah, when you went to the World University Games, obviously you went into the World University Games and you're out of the season and through 35. Um, what was the atmosphere like at the World University Games? Because I mean, I've only, like I have not competed at that high level, but
Mhm.
like what was it like competing in Napoli, Italy?
Um, I actually really enjoyed being in the atmosphere. I really love to travel, so being there and sightseeing and stuff, and as well as training and getting to compete and what I love, it was actually really fun to do. But I think what happened at that meet was it was the end of my season. It was my first year back off of being injured, where I was kind of inconsistent all year. And I think at that point, my body kind of just hit where it was like, okay, I'm done for the year. I need to relax now. Like I wasn't at the best peak
Yeah.
strength level that I would really be at during.
So you threw like 35, but you had thrown 48 leading up there. So honestly, yeah, that was why you're deserving of selection for that meet. My query is, if you had thrown 48, how much higher would you have ranked? Because I think you finished about 11th in your qualifying pool. So if you had thrown the 48, how much of a difference in terms of ranking would that have made?
Um, I'm not sure because I don't remember the other girls' marks from that meet, so I would have to look back and see that.
Yeah. Okay. So I've asked about C games. We can see your rankings. Um, oh yeah, you mind like these like this question's a bit different, I guess. Like and also I'm just asking some gym stuff. You might mind asking what's your height?
I'm 5'3".
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like not Evalyn, like Geralyn was around that as well, maybe even a bit shorter. So like Geralyn threw 53 in the
Yeah.
jab. Actually, Geralyn was extremely strong in the upper body in the bench press. She was just extremely strong in the upper extremities when she was active. Um, and so in the gym, what are your best lifts? Like what lifts are you primarily good at in the gym? What are your better lifts?
So how our training works, we kind of do a mix of everything, but when it comes to upper body, we focus more on flexibility and technique than strength for our training. But we focus mainly on cleans and squats, and then we'll do like accessory stuff in between, which is like our jab technique lifting that we do.
Oh, okay. So not so much on the bench, more stuff on movement type
Mhm.
exercises. Do you
Yeah.
do a lot of medicine ball work?
Yeah, we do when instead of because we throw twice a week for our training, but since we still need to work on the drills and stuff, we do kind of the similar stuff with the throwings, but we'll do med balls instead, or we'll throw softballs instead. It's the same technique and everything, just less pressure on our arms.
Okay. Um, okay. Before I ask questions about the Philippines, like who are your sporting heroes in javelin?
Um, One person I looked up to when I was growing up throwing the javelin was this one US pro thrower right now, Kara Patterson. And I would see her, well actually she goes by Kara Winger now. She got married. But she was someone I looked up to a lot. throughout high school and everything. And whenever we traveled for meets and there was pros competing, she would be there. So I kind of like introduced myself to her and got to know her a little bit like in person as well, which is really fun.
Yep. So how good was she in the javelin? Is she throwing now, or is she retired, or is she still?
She's still throwing. She actually recently got off I believe it was an ACL injury, so she just started competing again this year after her rehab for all of that.
How old is she now?
That I don't know.
She's in her 30s, I'm guessing. Or
I believe so. Yeah, I would think so. She used to have the US record for a while until this year because one girl broke it at one of the meets this year.
okay, so these are just my last three questions for today. These are all related to the Philippines. So, first question is: your mother is Filipino, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know which part of the Philippines she is from?
Um, I can't pronounce it. I can't pronounce it right. But her hometown was Daanbantayan. I don't know if I said it right.
Okay, so she's from the Visayas.
Hmm.
I'll go through some places in the Visayas and we'll see if we can figure it out. So I'll go through the places in the Visayas. So first, Cebu,
Mm-mm.
not that one.
No,
Okay, Dumaguete,
no,
Iloilo.
no. She's here. I can ask her.
You can, you can.
Yeah, I can tell her to come down.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, this is my mom.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I was just wondering which part of the Philippines you were from. There was just one query.
Oh, I'm part of Cebu City, but I'm on the north side, the tip of it. It's called Daanbantayan.
But yeah, because I was chatting with somebody from Cebu the other day, and there's like on the northern tip, above the northern tip, there's like a little island. So before the island.
It's just a town. It's not an island. Yeah, it's like a 2-hour drive from the
Yeah.
city, which is Cebu.
So is it pretty much Cebu Province?
Yes, it's Cebu.
Awesome. That's so cool because Geralyn is from that same place as well. I think Geralyn is from um, Cebu as well.
Yeah, I'm like in a little town, the end of Cebu City, which is just
Yeah.
a rural town. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just saying that like Geralyn Amandoron, who holds the Philippine record in the javelin, is also from Cebu Province. I'm not sure
Oh.
which Cebu Province, but I know she's from Cebu Province.
Uh-huh.
Not from outside. She's from Cebu Province.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, for the last two questions I have regarding the Philippines, you have a particular favorite Filipino food?
Um, we visited the Philippines when I was like really young, before my youngest brother was born, so it was a very long time ago. And
Yep.
I ended up having a snack. It's squid flakes. I don't know the actual brand name of it, but it was squid flakes. And we came back from the Philippines with like cases of it because I was obsessed with it.
What type of snack was it?
Um, hold on, let me ask her again because she might know the brand.
Okay.
Do you remember what the brand of the squid flakes was?
You know what? I don't remember, but I know it's not from a lot of times they're Korean and Chinese, but this one is actually from made in the Philippines, which is in Cebu City proper. There's some company that's making those squid flakes. just like the Cebu chicharron.
Oh, okay. So it's a savory snack. It's not like it's not like a cake or a sweet snack. It's like it's
No.
like similar to the chicharrons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
similar
okay. So
to that.
like dried
Yeah.
pork.
Uh-huh.
Or interesting. Cool. So
Yeah.
that's all good. So you said that you've been to the last time you went to the Philippines, you were quite young. Do you remember what age you were when you went there? Did you visit?
We went, the last time I went was last Christmas. We went for
2019.
2019 before COVID. Yeah. We
Yeah.
went there for, it was just me and my mom that went. It was for like a family reunion slash her sister's birthday party.
So it was just meeting up with relatives. Or...
Yeah. Relatives, family parties. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And which part did you go to? Did you just visit Cebu, or did you go around to the other places?
We were in her hometown a lot, and then we went to a bunch of resorts and
We went to Malapascua Beach Resort, which is also part of the end of Daanbantayan, which is a popular beach resort in Cebu
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, the other day I had this guy, and he was from the Philippine Sports Commission, and he was showing me videos of him sitting on a beach, and it was like it's like on an island which is north of Cebu. I
Yes.
think I'm just having a look now to see if I can find it on the map. He showed me this, and it was like a really small island which was north of Cebu. Um, Yeah, I just found Daanbantayan on the map,
Yep.
and the island, it's really tiny. The island is, I think it's that Malapascua Island. He showed
Yes.
me that.
That's it. Malapascua.
yeah.
Is that where you went, or?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he showed me a video of him sitting like on a beach here having some wine on the beach, and like
Yeah,
the
it's really
that
nice
Malapascua Island, because they're planning on holding, the Philippine Sports Commission is trying to start a water sports program up there. That's what he
Okay.
was trying to indicate to me the other day when I had a video chat with him. So he was in charge of he's in charge of the government sports program in that part of the country. So he's just just talking to me about all that. All right. So I think, yeah, I'm now out of questions. I'm not sure if Evalyn would like to ask something, but she does apologize because she doesn't have a very good internet connection over there. I'm not sure whereabouts she is at the moment, but it was good for Evalyn to join in. And I'm also mentioning to you now, as I'm not sure this is too relevant, but like they are planning their national championships in around the middle of September, but they don't have an exact date. That's all I know at the moment. I think they're going to have it at Baguio City.
Okay.
Yeah, so like that's just a possible thing to note. But I guess you just have to see how things go in terms of meets, and how the the summer meets progress in terms of if that's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I mean, um, the standard is pretty tough, I would say. But then again, like they may or may not stick to it. It depends on really the number of women they have qualified, and like in those 25 slots. As of now, they have about 10 to 12. So there's still about 10 to 12 next best performances based on IAAF points, which they will use to compare other events. Anyway, thanks for your time. I think we've been chatting for about just under an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And also thanks to Evalyn for joining us, even though her connection wasn't the best today, but she still took some time out to listen to the conversation, and I do hope that things are going well for Evalyn. I will also note that over there in the Philippines, their national athletes have had their first COVID vaccinations. So I'll just catch up with Evalyn after that to just check to see if she's had her jab, her COVID jab, and then they're having their next COVID jab in a couple of weeks. Of course, tough over there because they haven't really had any meets, and so athletes will be going to nationals with no meets. Like you just go to nationals and throw, or go to nationals and run. But through Pinoyathletics, we have been able to do some sprint and running events, but that was simply because even though we don't have a budget, the PSC doesn't have a budget, the Philippine Track and Field didn't have a budget, we had coaches and parents that just volunteered to officiate at meets, and we were able to do the running events. The problem is with the throwing, the field events is they require a higher level of officiating, which is really, those events are pretty dangerous. You've got kids chucking around a javelin, and if the official's not trained in what they're doing, then there could be a major incident. So we weren't able to, unfortunately, hold throwing events, but if we were able to, we would have loved to have held them. But yeah, I'm just hoping that things are going well for everyone over there with their training. Anyway, again, I'll leave you to it. Again, thanks once again for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks. Okay. So yeah, good luck with the events and just keep us updated.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.